Hello my friends, and today President of the United States Joe Biden announced the transition of the 31 Abrams tanks to Ukrainian army. And it is just a beginning. Again, we have a zoo in the Ukrainian army, Challengers, Leopards and Abrams. Altogether, we'll have around 200 tanks from all of the countries until the summertime. Not even speaking about the Soviet-made tanks that some of the European countries are willing to supply to Ukraine again. As for the Abrams, it wasn't the breaking news for me because yesterday I already knew that Biden is going to announce this transition of the tanks to Ukrainian army, and I published it on Telegram. So my friends, if you want to be updated on the current information, please subscribe for my Telegram channel. I'll put the link just below. But in general, I'm quite surprised about this decision. I wasn't expecting it at all before, because Abrams tanks require lots of the logistics, supplies, as I say to you in my previous video, with maintenance and other stuff. So United States will put lots of the efforts and money to this project. It would cost much more compared to maintaining Leopard 2 tanks. Probably that is why Ukraine will have more Leopard 2 tanks for now than Abrams. But again, the Leopard 2 tanks were not being massively used for the conflicts around the planet as Abrams had. So obviously it's a great choice to have this robust and proven tank for Ukraine. And still I wonder about the modification of the tank, because we have the different information from the different resources, and whether those tanks would be new or written off from the United States Army. And also whether those tanks will have the legendary uranium armor as well as legendary uranium shells. Obviously we're gonna see it in the future, but again it's the huge move for the help to Ukrainian army. And Joe Biden said one more important thing, that Ukraine is getting ready for the counterattack. As I said to you before, so the tanks are offensive weapons mostly. So that is why we need lots of them to start the counterattack on the southern part of Ukraine. And Financial Times already said that the developer of the F-16 fighter jets company is ready to supply their airplanes for the European market for their re-export to Ukraine. And I bet that in 1 month, on the 24th of February, 1 year after Russia started its massive war against Ukraine, we'll have the decision to supply the fighter jets to Ukrainian army. Slovakia is ready to supply those MiG-29s. They are ready for a very long time, but I think they're waiting for the other countries to join this big supplyment of the jets to Ukraine. So we're gonna get MiG-29s and F-16s. And maybe others. As you can see, in Ukraine there are totally different types of weaponry from the different countries. Actually, it's the first time in the history that a single country has this diversity of the military units in its army. And again, we're gonna see what performs better, Leopards, Abrams or Challengers. I think it's also a great competition between producers of the weaponry. As for the tanks, we're not just getting the vehicles, we're getting the ammunitions for them, the maintenance support, special engineering vehicles to evacuate those tanks from the front lines and other stuff. About the French AMX-10RC vehicles, or you may call them tanks on the wheels, so they're gonna go to Ukrainian army very soon in February. So now I think that those long columns in Poland are really the supplies for the Ukrainian army, because those are Abrams tanks and Bradleys. So United States knew probably about the tank supplies well before. Now probably they're gonna paint them over in Poland with a new camouflage, maintain them there and send to Ukrainian army. With these tanks and armor vehicles armada, Ukraine will go on a counterattack very soon, and Russia simply doesn't have anything to stop Ukrainian army. British intelligence already said that the Russian army that they used at the beginning of the war was totally demolished by Ukrainian forces throughout the year. And now they have mainly mobilized soldiers and Wagner Group. So Wagner, it's the single force for now in Russia that may capture some of the small towns, villages and territory. There's the massive drone and rocket attack on Ukraine again. On 25th of January, Zelensky turned 45. That is why we had lots of the air sirens, and Russia sent lots of the drones to attack Ukrainian cities. But again, Zelensky got his best present, Abrams tanks. And media reports that the Turkish ship that is in Odessa port was under attack by the drone, but it seems like it happened not this night, but the last one. The Turkish ship is used for the grain deal, and we expect the reaction from the Turkish side. Right, what Russia has to respond on Leopards and Abrams and Challengers, they have T-14 Armata, which does exist, but at the same time it doesn't. The British intelligence says that Russia refused to use their Armata tanks in the war against Ukraine due to their significant technical flaws. Previously, Russia reported that it was working on preparing a small number of T-14 Armata tanks for the first combat deployment in Ukraine. Actually, they showed just 2 units. Totally, Russia claims that they produce around 30 of them, but it's not the serial production tank, and you might have seen this tank just on parades. On the paper, believe me or not, it is the best tank in the world. It's better to say it's some sort of the ghost propaganda tank that Russia constantly uses, and it's just useless. Alright, now let's review the military map. It's the general picture of what is happening on the eastern part of Ukraine. Here's the Bakhmut. It's the main hotspot. Russia took Soledar, and today it's the first time that Ukrainian authorities confirmed that Ukrainian army went out from the Soledar and neighboring suburbs. But as you can see, we have lots of our forces in the region, and it's the main concentration of the units throughout the front lines. And here's the main vector for the Russian attack near to Klishivka. They want to partially encircle Bakhmut city from the south. But if we move northbound to Crimea, you can see that Ukrainian forces actually are very close to Crimea, 95th Brigade. They're very capable, and they're 2 kilometers away from the city border. It's hard for them to move to Crimea because Russians put lots of the minefields, and little by little we are taking some ground over there. Alright, Bakhmut, as you can see, it's not a great picture, I might say, because Russians are pushing from the south. They were able to penetrate the Ukrainian defense line near to Andriivka and Klishivka, and also they are pushing from the north over here, and they entered the residential area of the northeast suburbs of the city. Yes, it's difficult with the resources that we currently have to withstand Bakhmut, but we're gonna cause Russian severe losses in that city. You know that it was reported that the Russian cemetery for the Wagner soldiers has increased by 7 times throughout recent 2 months. So just imagine the losses of the Wagner group. They have the tactical advantage in Soledar, maybe in Bakhmut, but in general they cannot turn the situation upside down for Russia. Getting the strategic superiority in this war, they simply don't have enough resources. Alright, let's take a closer look on Bakhmut city. Here in the north, Russians penetrated the Ukrainian defense lines and went to the city residential area. On the southeast side as well, they are unable to do it over here. So basically, what I was told by my mate, who is now in Bakhmut city, he told me that Wagner throw their prisoners just to direct attack, and they don't care about their losses, but from the flanks they operate with experienced soldiers, which is very difficult for our army. They almost completely destroyed this part of the city, and sadly I expect that Russians may take this part all across this river over here, but you can see that all of the bridges were cut to the other part of the city, and they cannot just go to other part. That's why I think for them it's unreal scenario for now to go on this part. Speaking about the Donetsk direction, Russians tried to get Vuhledar again. They took Pavlovka around 2 months ago, and now they're trying to get Vuhledar, but we have our defense lines over there, so they don't have any kind of the movement. They're just trying to use their artillery and move somewhere. New movement in Zaporizhia region. Here Russians got some of the ground, few hundred meters, no special. And there were reports about Kamensk. I hope you can see it now, that Ukrainian forces went to Stepohirsk over here from Kamensk, but Russians are struggling to move forward because these positions are under control by Ukrainian artillery systems. So basically no one is controlling this part anymore. And let's switch on to the deep state. I just want to show you the progress of the enemy near to Bakhmut and Klishivka. So they advanced quite a lot from Klishivka recently, and they've took the small road that goes throughout this river, the small one, and they're very close to the main road that is not in use any longer for Ukrainian supplies, but the secondary road is in Chasiv Yar, and if Russians would cut that road, basically it would be very hard for Bakhmut to get supplies from Ukrainian side. So if Russia continued to advance over here, basically Bakhmut is doomed. The main thing for Ukraine is to cut this vector. They make it a little bit vulnerable for Ukrainian counterattacks. We may attack from this side and from this side as well, if we have enough forces in that region. I hope we have. And now please press the like to this video. Also, if you want to support me financially, there are some of the links in a video description below. You may support me on Patreon, PayPal or Donatello, whichever is more convenient for you. My friends, thank you so much for your support, and I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are. Have a great time.